What's going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage. Today we're going to be winterizing our Kawasaki 15F jet ski, and I just want to show you the products that we're going to be using to do this. You don't have to do it my way, and if you don't ride in salt water, the salt away isn't going to be necessary, but it's just a step that I'm taking to ensure that my machine is fresh and good for the springtime when we go to take it back out. So first and foremost, you're going to need some stable. This stuff is 1 ounce per 2.5 gallons, and the 15F has a 16.5 gallon tank. So we're going to use around 7 ounces. I may as well really just dump the whole damn thing in there, but we'll see what happens. It's only 8 ounces. We're going to be using some salt away. What this is going to do is it's going to remove all the salt that's in the engine and the jet pump. Anywhere that there's salt, it's going to neutralize that. And it comes with this applicator. We're going to show you exactly how to use that. We're going to be using our XPS anti-corrosion lubricant. After we're done with everything, we're going to go ahead and spray the engine and the jet pump down with this stuff. This stuff is great. I use it after every ride. We're going to be doing an oil change. We're going to be using 10W40 liquid moly Motorcraft oil. It's made specifically for jet skis. And we're going to be using a Wix 51358 oil filter. You don't have to change the oil when you winterize, but that's just the way I'm going to do it. That way in the spring when I do go to take it out, it's going to be that much easier. I don't really have to do anything to it other than start it up and change the plugs. We're going to be using some stable fogging oil. Once we're done with everything and we get it in the garage, we're going to pull the spark plugs out. We're going to spray that down into the cylinders and crank it a little bit, get them, you know, that fogging oil through the rings and everything. And we're also going to be using this RV and Marine antifreeze to pump through the system. And to pump it through the system, we're going to be using this. It's basically a sump pump. I believe this is a 1/8 horsepower, if I remember correctly. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm almost 90% positive that's what it is. And we're going to be using this little short run of garden hose. And you're also going to need a 5-gallon bucket. So I'm going to go ahead and compile a list of all this stuff. I'm going to drop it down below. I'm going to leave some links down there. If you purchase from those links, it helps the channel, helps us grow, and we do get a small cut from that, so we do appreciate it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to get out to the jet ski, we're going to put in our stable, we're going to top off our fuel tank, and then we're going to move right to the salt away. So let's get out there. I'm going to set you up on the tripod. We're going to have at it. So the best way that I've found to use stable is to add it to a tank that has about half a tank, half capacity in it. You want to put your full dosage of stable in there, and then you want to fill the tank up. And this allows the stable to get mixed into the tank a little bit better. And then the whole time that we are winterizing this jet ski, that stable that we put in there is going to be running through the fuel pump, through the fuel lines, through the fuel rail and the injectors, and it's going to work its way in there. So like I said, we're going to put about 7 ounces in here. This is an 8-ounce container, so we're only going to want 1 ounce left when we're done. So we're going to go ahead, open our fuel cap. We're going to open our stable. We're going to break our seal. And we are going to pour the stable in. Alright, so now we got our stable in. We're going to go ahead and get our fuel. We're going to top off the tank. Alright, here we have our jazz jug. We're going to go ahead, put our hose into the neck. And just like this, we're going to get covered in gasoline. Just going to very slowly add our fuel. I'm just listening to it as it's coming up in the neck to make sure that we don't overfill it. sure that's right where we're going to want to be. Here we can go a little more. And that should be good. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put our fuel cap back on. Let's just bump the starter real quick. And the tank is reading full, so we're good. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to get the hose ready, and we're going to get our salt away. And we're going to start flushing this engine out with the salt away to get rid of any salt that may be in there. And then we're going to move on to the antifreeze. Alright guys, so here we have our salt away, and here we have our applicator. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this applicator up. Okay. And we're going to fill this clear plastic bottle here with the salt away. So we're going to go ahead, fill it up. Like so. And we are going to screw the lid back on our salt away. Now this salt away has 3 settings. You're going to see rinse, you're going to see off, and you're going to see salt away. So you want to start with this off. With your jet skis, you need to start the engine before you turn the water on. Otherwise you can risk flooding the cylinders, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to take you off the tripod real quick. I'm going to show you exactly where the flush port is on this, and we're going to get this set up. So on the Kawasaki 15F, your flush port is actually right here. So we already went ahead and unscrewed this. But what I actually went ahead and did is I bought myself this hose quick disconnect kit. I've had this thing forever, and it makes it really easy for me to flush this machine. So now that I showed you where this port is, we're going to go back on the tripod, we're going to set up the salt away on the end of our hose, and we're going to start flushing it. Alright guys, so here we have our hose, and the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to screw the salt away here onto the end of our hose here until it's tight. Okay, and then we're going to take our quick disconnect that I told you about. We're going to screw that here, like so. And now we're going to take the other end, we're going to screw it onto the jet ski, and then we're going to plug it right in. Alright guys, so we got our hose all set up. Right now it is off, that is very important. And we have our nozzle here set to salt away. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to start the machine, and then we're going to turn our hose on. So we're going to start it up. Hose on. And the salt away is going to fill up with water, and then it's going to basically self-dose itself. Let me get you off the tripod real quick and show you exactly what's going on here. So you'll see we have the salt away running through the jet pump. You can see the bluish tint of the liquid coming out. You always want to check your telltale here. As long as you have liquid flowing out of here, you know your cooling system is working. And you'll see the salt away is being diluted and added to the system. So we're going to let this run for about 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to take what's left of the salt away. We're going to open up the seats, and we're going to open up our drains on the back of the jet pump. Or the back of the jet ski. There's 2 bilge drains. You're going to have one here and one here. And what we're going to do is we're going to rinse this whole machine off with the salt away, including the engine. And then we're going to move on to our next step. Alright guys, so the salt away's been running through the system for about 5 minutes or so now. I'm going to take you over to the back of the ski real quick. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. There's a ton of suds back there, so we know the stuff is running through the system. So what we're going to go ahead and do now, we're going to switch the nozzle on the salt away like I was showing you. It's got 3 settings. We're going to switch that over to rinse, and we're going to let it run for a couple more minutes to flush fresh water through there, get all the salt away out. And then we're going to flip the throttle a couple times to get any moisture that's in the water box or anything like that out. We're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. We're going to fire it up again, couple quick revs, no water, blow the rest of that stuff out of the engine. And then we're going to move on to the winterization process, which is basically, like I was showing you, putting that RV antifreeze through the whole system. So let's go ahead, like I said, switch that over to rinse and let it rinse out. Now we've got fresh water running through the machine, flushing all that salt away out. Like I said, there's a little bit of salt away left in that container. We're going to pop the seats off, hose the engine down real nice. We're going to make sure we open up those bilge drains so any water that gets in there from us hosing it drains out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to shut the water off while the jet ski is still running, and then we're going to blip the throttle a couple times to get any water that's left in the exhaust box out. And I'm just going to show you, I'm going to bring it to the back of the ski so you can see exactly what we're looking for here. Water's off. Just like that. So now, like I said, we're going to let it sit for like 5 minutes. Let any of that water that's in there pool up. And then we're going to start it up once more. Give it a quick blip. And then we're going to go ahead and pop them seats off. Rinse it all out. Now I just wanted to show you guys how important it is to let it sit for a few minutes and then rev it again. Because you're going to be amazed at how much water is still in this system when I start it up. So I'm just going to start it and give it a quick blip. And I want you to watch the exhaust. The exhaust is on the far right. You'll see the jet pump in the center and the exhaust to the right of it. You're going to see how much water is still in this system right now, and that is why it is so important to get as much of the water out as you can before you add the RV antifreeze, because in the directions of that stuff they specifically say do not add water. So like I said, we're just going to start it up, blip it, and shut it back down. Alright, so now we're at a point where we can go ahead and take our seats off here and rinse off the rest of the machine with the salt away. So I'm not going to bore you while I set the hose up. If you have one of these, you already know how to take your seats off. I'm not going to show you how to do that. So we're going to come back with the seats off and the salt away set up to rinse the machine. Guys, seats are off. We're going to go ahead. We're going to open up these two bilge drains. You got one here on your left. You got one here on your right. It's normal to have a slight amount of water in here. That's completely normal. Alright, now we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our salt away here. We're going to set the nozzle here to salt away. And we're going to very lightly hose off the engine compartment. You don't have to go crazy. You just want to, give it a nice little misting, so to say. So we're just going to go ahead, get the salt away down in here. Anything that's metal, you just want to try to avoid the intake, obviously. We're going to pull this compartment here out. Get down here. Right. Okay. And now we're just gonna, in general, just hose the machine down with the salt away. I like to go down here, get it into the jet pump. Really do a nice job on this jet pump. Especially if you ride in salt water, that's super important. Jet pump, jet pump, jet pump. I'm going to say that, because with these machines, the jet pump can literally total your machine if it fails. So like I said, hose the whole machine down. Here, get the hood, get the hull. Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead, we're going to hook the Jeep up to the jet ski trailer, and we're going to move it up closer to the house, and we're going to start the process of running that RV antifreeze through there. One thing I forgot to mention, make sure that you put the salt away into the rinse mode, and then rinse everything that you hosed inside of the ski as well. The salt away is not going to damage anything, but it is a detergent, and you don't want to leave a detergent just sitting in there, so just make sure you hose that out too, with fresh water. Alright guys, so here we have our red bucket. We're going to go ahead, put our sump pump here in the red bucket, and we're going to take our yellowish green hose, and we're going to screw the female end onto the male end of our sump pump. Again, I'm going to add all of the stuff that we're using here into the video description below, so should you need it, you'll have it. I might have to take this out to do it. Might be a little easier. Alright, so we got that on there. Now we're going to go ahead, dump our RV antifreeze. You'll see RV and marine. Again, I'll add a link to this in the description below. And we're going to fill the bucket up. Alright, I'm just going to go off camera, fill the rest of this up. There's no reason for you to watch me dumping this into the bucket. Alright guys, we got our RV antifreeze right there, filled up to the top of the bucket. The hose going to the flush port on the ski. I'm going to go ahead and move you to the back here. And there's a couple of things that we want to look for. Number one, we're going to do exactly as we did before. We're going to start the machine first, and then we're going to turn the pump on. But what we want to look for is two things here, and I'm going to try to get you so you can see both. There's the little coolant telltale that I was telling you about before. On the side of the ski right there in between the stickers. We want to see the pink antifreeze coming out of that. We want to see it coming out of the jet pump, excuse me, and we want to see it coming out of the exhaust. Once we see it coming out of all three of those spots, we know that the system has this antifreeze in it, and we can go ahead and shut it down. Now, when you do shut it down, again, you unplug the sump pump first, and then you shut the ski off. You never want water running or anything running into the engine cooling system without it on. So that is super, super important. Now, I forgot that I have a super long extension cord, so that's why we didn't move this like we said we were. I wanted to leave it at this angle a little bit more to drain the rest of the water out of the bilge. So let's go ahead, let's start the ski up, let's plug the jet pump or the sump pump in, and let's let this RV antifreeze get through the whole system. Alright, like I said, start it up. You'll see we already have the pink residue coming out of the jet pump here, down below. It's starting to spray out of the exhaust a little bit, and it's definitely coming out on the side. that should do it. Perfect. So I actually ran the sump pump dry. It sucked that stuff through so fast. But now we know that we have this antifreeze basically through the whole engine. It's in the jet pump, it's in the water box for the exhaust, and we're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead, now we're going to get the jet ski in the garage, because now the next part of our winterization process here is to remove the spark plugs, and we're going to spray the stable engine store down into all 4 cylinders and crank it and let that stuff get through all the pistons, rings, you know, tops of the combustion chambers and everything like that, so we don't have any rust set in while it sits over the winter. This jet ski is going to be stored indoors, so it wasn't 100% necessary that we use the antifreeze, but should it drop below freezing in my garage if we have a cold winter, I want this thing to be protected. So let's go ahead, get this in the garage, and move on to our last step. Now, I personally like to change the oil when I winterize. I'm going to do a separate video for that because it's not a necessary step in winterizing your jet ski, but it's a good idea to do it now, honestly. But that'll be in a separate video. If you want to watch that, I'll link it down below as well. Alright guys, here we are with the jet ski inside now. We're going to be completing the last step of our winterization here. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove all 4 of these spark plug boots, like so. Here's number 1. You're going to twist and pull. Number 2, twist and pull. Number 3, twist and pull. Number 4. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use a 3/8 spark plug socket and a ratchet, and we're going to very carefully break all 4 of our spark plugs loose. Now, if your jet ski is properly maintained, these should come right out just as these did. And we're going to go ahead and pull these spark plugs out. We're just going to inspect them when we pull them out. You'll see these are nice and new, and they have been anti-seized, which is super nice. So whoever owned this jet ski prior to us getting it definitely did either take care of it or had somebody that knows how to take care of it. So this is definitely nice here. So we're going to go ahead, get all 4 of these spark plugs out, and we're going to get our stable engine store, which again, I'll either link it below or I'll add it to my Amazon affiliate store. What I'm thinking I might do is create a new list on my affiliate store and just drop everything that we used here in that video, or in that list. That way you have it. So we're just taking out number 1 now. Here it is. We're going to go ahead and get our engine store. We'll be right back. So this is our engine store / fogging oil. So we're just going to go ahead and spray a good amount of this down into each cylinder here. Now what I'm finding is it doesn't like to spray when it's upside down. Alright. 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 Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put a rag over top of this engine. We're going to unplug our fuel injectors because we don't want any fuel getting sprayed into the engine at this point, and we're going to crank it over. Alright, we went ahead and did that. Go ahead, cover our engine here, and we're just going to crank it. Okay, we're going to spray a little bit more in. We're going to cover it up. Crank it. And what that's doing is getting the engine store through the rings into the, the top of the combustion chamber, and it's lubricating the whole top end of the engine. So now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead, we're going to put our spark plugs back in. We're going to leave our seats off for a little bit because we did just spray everything down. But we are going to use the XPS spray, and we're going to spray everything and anything that's metal under here to keep it from corroding, including the jet pump. So let's get our Sparkies in, and I'll grab that spray. Now, one thing that I feel is pretty important to touch on is where you're storing your jet ski. If you're going to be storing it indoors, you could 100% leave the battery in the machine. Just hook it up to a battery tender like we have here in the garage. If you're going to be storing it outside, I would recommend taking the battery out, bringing it indoors, whether it be in your garage, on your toolbox, wherever, and set it up on a battery tender to keep it charged. So this is how we're going to be doing ours, and I recommend you do the same. Now, I know some of you might be watching and wondering, hey, why didn't we put new spark plugs in it now? I am going to tell you I do have brand new spark plugs for this. They are sitting right here. They are NGK, original equipment. You don't want to put them in when you're winterizing, because part of winterizing is spraying that fogging oil or that engine store into the cylinders. When you first start this thing in the spring, that oil is going to foul those spark plugs. So what you're going to want to do when we do de-winterize it, I'm going to do a video on that, you're going to start it and let it run for 10 or 15 minutes with the old spark plugs in it, rev it up a couple times, blow that fogging oil out, and then you're going to put your new plugs in. So always put your old plugs in when you are winterizing. Now would be the point where if you wanted, you could change your oil. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to do it in this video. It's not really a necessary part of winterizing. We've basically covered everything that is. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to take our XPS anti-corrosion spray. This is by BRP. And we are just going to spray it on anything and everything that is a metal component of this engine. We're going to get it on the intake manifold. We're going to get it on the fuel rail. We're going to get it down on the exhaust. And this is a water displacement. It's like WD-40 on steroids, basically, for marine vehicles. This will keep any rust or anything from forming, and it coats everything that's metal, everything that's electric. You know, be very, very liberal with this stuff. We're going to go ahead. We're going to lift this cover off. We're going to get our water box back here. We're going to get the joint here where the water box meets the little rubber bellow. I'm just going to empty this can on it. I have a brand new can, but this is going to keep any rust from forming on your jet ski over the winter. So now, like I said, we're going to go ahead. We're going to leave the seats off for a few days. Let that hull dry out, make sure everything's nice and dry, and that's it. So if this video helped you, oh, we're going to spray some of that stuff in the jet pump too. Don't forget that. Let me do that real quick. Actually, while I have you. Just going to go ahead, get it all nice and in there around the impeller and everything. But yeah, so if this video helped you winterize your jet ski, this doesn't necessarily have to be just for Kawasaki's. This is more or less any jet ski you have. These are the steps you're going to want to take to winterize it. So if it helped you do that, please like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned for more jet ski content. We're going to be doing jet pumps on this one. We're going to be doing some big repairs on our other jet ski. And we're going to be doing an oil change on this. So definitely stay tuned. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.